Hey, honey.
Yes, Barry?
Let's get out of here.
Where are we going?
Where do we always go?
Fascina el viento, este ritmo de palmas, sin naturaleza, hasta encontrar la playa. Por eso grito al mundo, yo soy de Puerto Vallarta. Samba de Puerto Vallarta, noche de arrullo en el mar. Samba de Puerto Vallarta.
Hello, fellow travelers, and welcome to this episode of the Puerto Vallarta Travel Show. I'm your host, Barry Kessler, and I'm just so happy to be introducing you to my favorite vacation destination in the entire world. Maybe it's even yours, and that's Puerto Vallarta, Mexico. The music you're listening to is performed by Alberto Perez, and Alberto is the owner of the Lapa Lapa group of restaurants, and those are the Lapa Lapa, the El Dorado, and at night, the El Dorado transforms into the Vista Grill, and that's the Vista Grill that used to be up on the hill overlooking the city. Well, now it has a new vista. It's right on the beach where you get the same Vista Grill menu, the fantastic Vista Grill service, and it's right there on Los Muertos Beach with a great view of the Los Muertos Pier, all lit up at night in such beautiful colors. It's so romantic. It's just so Puerto Vallarta, my friends. Today we have a special show, but first, what's happened in Puerto Vallarta this week, the 22nd of August, 2017. Last week, I talked about taking a hike, remember, from Boca de Timatlan to Las Animas Beach. And in that podcast, we talked about the famous Ocean Grill, built into the cliffs over at Colomitos Cove. Well, if my latest podcast has spurred you to give the Ocean Grill a try, hold everything, boys and girls. Stop the presses. The restaurant has been temporarily shut down by the authorities. Mexico's equivalent of the EPA, the Environmental Protection Agency up in the States, has put an end to their operation. Now, there's lots of stories swirling around, and I have a link to an article written about the closure, which you can find in the show notes of the podcast. But hey, listen, I have some information from some pretty solid sources as to really what's going on, but I'm not here to spread any disinformation. I don't want to spread any rumors, you guys. Puerto Vallarta is known as the town of rumors, and I'm not playing that game. So for now, I just want you to know that if you currently have a reservation for the Ocean Grill, it will not be honored. They won't send a panga to Boca de Timatlan to pick you up and whisk you over to Colomitos Cove and to the Ocean Grill. They are shuttered, at least until further notice, so stay tuned. Now, one of my friends, Pamela, who lives in Lake Chapala, just sent me a note that she spent some time over at the Garza Blanca Resort, just south of Puerto Vallarta, and I want to find out what she and her husband thought about the place. But more than that, Pamela is going to talk a little about her timeshares that she owns and about the properties in Puerto Vallarta and all along the Bahia de Banderas that she's visited. I would consider Pamela to be a luxury traveler. You remember in the first episode, I promised that the show was going to be for the economy traveler as well as for the luxury traveler. So you luxury travelers, this episode will be for you. So imagine, if you will, this is really cool. Pamela lives like 6-hour drive from Puerto Vallarta. That's like me driving from LA to San Francisco. Well, that's what Pamela needs to do to get to Puerto Vallarta. It's pretty cool, right? I mean, how often would you hit PV every year if you could just hop in your car and drive on over? Like once a month? Maybe. I don't know. Well, Pamela knows a lot, and she knows a lot about the great restaurants all along the bay. So stay tuned for that interview. Now, remember when me and JR talked about the crocodiles that live in Puerto Vallarta? Well, check out this article from yesterday's VallartaDaily.com. Man killed by crocodile in Emeka River in Puerto Vallarta. Ruh-roh. Let's read. The State Civil Protection and Fire Department of Jalisco confirms that a man in Puerto Vallarta was attacked by a crocodile in the Emeka River while fishing and was found dead. The man was identified as Gerardo Alvarez, 30. He is a corporal with the 41st Military Zone, stationed evidently over in Puerto Vallarta at the time, perhaps. And he was fishing along the river located in the municipality of Puerto Vallarta. The report was received on Saturday when the search for the missing man began in the river, but the search was discontinued in the evening. And then Sunday morning, the search was continued at 8 in the morning with the body being recovered at 9:44 in the bay. The exact death and injuries is still being investigated. However, experts in crocodiles believe the man was fishing along the banks of the river with his feet inside the water. The crocodile, defending his territory, grabbed the man by his feet and dragged him into the river. The body showed signs of bites from the attack. At least that's what the article reads. Okay, so just to be clear, the Emeka River is the river that separates the states of Jalisco and Nayarit. It's just north of the airport. And you know what, you guys? You can see crocodiles sometimes just lying there on the sandbars as you drive over the bridge, over the river. And there's signs posted everywhere. So, the signs say, be careful of crocodiles, right? So just let that be a warning for you guys. Now, crocodiles are actually seen regularly in the Marina Vallarta. You can find them on golf courses. They're around, so just be aware. Now, further reports said that they did find the man with bite marks on his left leg, and that's where the alligator probably grabbed him, dragged him into the water, and then took him into deeper waters and drowned him. That's what they do. They drown their prey. And then basically he floated over to the bay, I'm guessing. So anyway, you don't have to be afraid of crocodiles. You just have to look for the signs. You have to be careful and be aware. I have a link to the article in the show notes of this episode, so check it out if you wish. But I kind of read the whole thing to you, so you don't necessarily have to do that. Now, I received a couple of notes and letters, and there was one great review on iTunes this week. And the iTunes review is from Leaning Oak, somewhere in the USA. And it reads, "Excellent listen for travelers to paradise, a.k.a. Puerto Vallarta. Listening to Barry's podcast has become very addictive. Before my last trip to Paradise, a.k.a. Puerto Vallarta, earlier this year, I discovered this absolutely essential listen for travelers to Mexico's most popular tourist destination. And since returning home, I continue to listen each week carefully, noting tips for my next vacation. I would love to meet Barry in person, but for now, the world has this excellent podcast to keep us up to date and informed." Wow, this is very nice. The podcast has introduced us to JR of VallartaInfo.com, who has lived in Puerto Vallarta for almost 40 years. We've gotten to hear from full-time resident and resident reviewer Gary Beck, and then there's an episode with Gary Thompson, the owner of the Galleria Pacifico, who graciously donates his time to do free walking tours along the Malecon. All excellent listening, and so much more. Thank you, Barry, for the Puerto Vallarta Travel Show.com and your podcasts. Well, thank you, Leaning. I'd love to meet you too sometime in paradise. And just let me know next time you're planning on coming down, and if I'm in town, why not, right? The last time I was in town, I had a meet and greet open mic event over at Kelly's Por Favor Saloon and Cookhouse, and we had a pretty good showing. The problem was that some of my interviewees were just a little bit sloshed. I mean, some of them were actually really good, and I've kept those interviews, and we'll be hearing some of those. But man, I listened to some of the interviews, and I can't use a bunch of them. I mean, it's a family show, you guys. I'm not that quick with the beeper to keep us rated clean in iTunes. Just saying. Anyway, Leaning Oak, we need to have a beer or a Paloma or whatever. Speaking of a Paloma, I got to tell you about Palomas. But before I get off this subject, I just want you to know, Leaning Oak from USA, that these reviews keep me going. So thanks. By all means, all you guys, keep them coming, please. Okay, now back to Palomas. In the interview I had with Jeff Bassett from Sunsport Travel 2 weeks ago, and by the way, Jeff wanted me to let all of you know that he's now full-time in the travel agency business, so check out the links again to Sunsport Travel in my links page at my website. Anywho, we talked with Jeff about fun in the summer sun, remember? And Jeff and I were going back and forth about Palomas. Jeff was saying that he was told that the true margarita was a Paloma, made with tequila, lime, and squirt. And I laughed at him. Well, I got an email from my buddy Skip from Minnesota, and Skip says, like Jeff, I like the Paloma, and then in parentheses he has Dove, as opposed to the margarita, which he has in parentheses Daisy. Palomas are less sweet and syrupy to my palate, and I like the grapefruit taste. I make them with 4 parts tequila, 1 part lime juice, and add ice and either squirt, grapefruit soda, or Fresca, the sugar-free stuff, to taste. All right, well, there you go. I had never heard of Palomas, and there we have it. So, all right, Skip. You win, and so do you, Jeff. You win too. But I don't drink my margaritas like that, you guys. I'll go over that another time. Anyway, I really like Skip. He's my kind of guy. Now, we've been emailing back and forth. He wanted to know the best places to buy alcohol in Puerto Vallarta, and maybe in an upcoming episode, I'll give you all the great tips for stocking up on alcohol for your extended stay in paradise. I mean, what kind of fun do you expect to have if your liver isn't properly pickled in paradise, pal? Really? Okay, let's get to the show. Back in February, I had a great conversation with Gary Beck, the author of the Puerto Vallarta Restaurant Guide. We talked all about the restaurant scene in Puerto Vallarta, and Gary is a wealth of knowledge. If you listen to that podcast, you know what I'm talking about. Anyway, I asked him to allow me to interview him again, that we could maybe talk about the entertainment scene here in Puerto Vallarta. So we sat down back in May and talked about the different venues as well as the shows from the previous year. One of the busiest places we talked about was Act 2, Stages and the Room Cabaret. And I thought before we get into the conversation with Gary, I'd bring on Danny Mininni. He's the head honcho over at Act 2. And I want him to talk about what's in store for the rest of the summer season. So let's go to Puerto Vallarta and talk with Danny Mininni. All right, I have Danny Mininni from Act 2. And Danny, how you doing today?
I'm doing great. How are you doing, Barry?
I'm good. Thanks for coming on. Hey, listen, tell the listeners what you have planned for the rest of the year.
Well, up until for the rest of the season, we're slowly phasing out. We've had an incredible summer with a series that we created called Spotlight on Vallarta. And what we've been doing is we've been showcasing some of the best talent here in Puerto Vallarta, creating, directing, and producing their own cabaret shows. in our cabaret. And it's been a huge success. As a matter of fact, it's been such a success. Our summer numbers are 100% over any other summer. We've done a Motown show with Diana Villamonte that closed last week, all sold out houses, and a bunch of great shows. Right now, we have coming up on Thursday is a group that we created called Trinity. And Trinity is made up of the last 3 years of the winners of the Voice of Vallarta, 3 talented young ladies. And with the 3 of them, we created Trinity, and they have the most incredible 3-part harmonies you've ever heard. Oh, wow. And their closing night will be this coming Thursday, 24th. No, I'm sorry, that's Imperatrice, the winner of 2017, is the 24th. So Trinity, we closed last week, and Imperatrice, who was the winner of the 2017, she is a famous Venezuelan singer. She was a recording artist in Venezuela, and she escaped Venezuela and got to Puerto Vallarta, and we produced her show called Libre, Free, for exactly the reason, because she's now free. Yes. And her closing night will be this Thursday at 7:30. And then over the weekend on the 25th and the 26th, we have a famous Mexican artist called Supermana. And Supermana is a drag queen who is on television, who is a comedian. And she's there the 25th and the 26th at 9 o'clock. And then we close the series with Camille Desailly, who is, last year she was the star of Avenue Q and a couple of her other shows. And every year, every show, people would say, where did you find her? Who is that girl? So we decided to create a cabaret for her, and she has her opening night on the 31st, and it's called Who's That Girl? And it's a Broadway-inspired show.
Wow. Wow. You guys are so busy, Danny. I can't believe that it's so late in the season and you're still
going
strong. You're going strong, man.
Yeah. Yeah. We really don't stop. We will stop. We will start slowing down mid-September once we get through Cammie shows and the Supermana shows and Patrice's shows. And then, of course, we have the karaoke every Wednesday night, which is the huge hit. It's where all the expats come to meet. And then we got an extra special treat. On September 5th, we have an incredible surprise for everyone. It's a special treat, especially for the summer, because during the summer, we do mostly shows that we have created, and we look for local talent, and we create from scratch shows that we produce. Mm-hmm. But on September 5th and on September 8th, 2 shows only, we're bringing in Christine Deaver, who is one of our, well, they don't like to say high season, we'll say winter season stars. And she is brought in from the United States every year to do shows for a few weeks. And we got lucky, and we got her coming in September 5th, opening night, for 2 shows only. And that show is going to be a combination of her shows the last 2 years, the last 2 seasons she's been with us, and a preview of the show she will be doing opening here at Act 2 in the Red Room in December, which is going to be an 80s show. And that's really exciting. So to get somebody of this caliber in the summer to do a show is kind of a huge deal for us. And it's a great experiment to see how many people are going to come out for one of our highlighted performers.
Yeah. So how are you guys doing? How is the attendance?
Attendance has been incredible. With the first few summers that we were trying to get Act 2 going, getting anyone to come in was such a difficult thing. And as we just kept being persistent and we didn't give up on giving Puerto Vallarta summer entertainment, it's building and it's building. And the most wonderful thing is we got just an incredible team of creative people that work at Act 2 now. And in this series of the Spotlight of Vallarta series, we have Alfonso Lopez, who's the musical director and co-artistic director at Act 2. He's got a background and a master's in music, and he's put together this series. And just people are responding to it. We would be lucky in the first years if we can get 10 people to come in and see a show. And now they're selling out. We're getting full houses in August for shows, September for shows. It's really, we are already selling a lot of tickets for the Christine Deaver show on September 5th. And to have that many people pre-purchase tickets for a show that's in September, it's pretty amazing.
Yeah, it's insane. Well, it sounds like You are the busiest guy in Puerto Vallarta right now, Dan.
We're pretty busy. Normally, between April and October, people think because it's the slower time of the year that I'm slow. But between April and October is when I'm planning all of the shows that we have during the winter season. And we do about 29 shows a week.
Whoa.
And with 14 different shows, 29 showings a week for 6 months. And that includes a lot of shows that we bring in from out of town, but a lot of shows that we also produce. So coordinating all of that and doing the artwork and doing the copy for the website and for the press releases and making sure that you don't overlap on shows, that's where really all the hard work is. That's where my hard work is. And luckily, we have a great team of people that help me do it.
No doubt. Hey, listen, I want you to promise me that you'll come back on and maybe we can have a whole show about what goes on over at Act Two. Would you do that for me?
Oh, I would love that. Thanks for letting us come on and talk about all the wonderful things we're doing.
All right. Well, we'll get back to this interview with Gary, but thank you so much for coming on and just giving us a little hint as to what to look forward to when we get back with you a little bit later on. Well,
we can't wait, and come on down and check out Christine Deaver's show. In fact, if you or anyone else is around, make sure to check her out because it's a summer season treat to have her here right now. We're very excited.
Fantastic. Okay, everybody, you heard. If you're in town, that's the place to be. Danny, thanks for joining me, man.
Thank you. Have a great day.
All right. That guy is a busy dude. He's an amazing guy. He's actually from my neck of the woods. We were just talking about home. So I'm going to have him come on, and we're going to have a whole show with Danny. So stay tuned for that. Now, also before I get into Gary's interview, I want to introduce you to a man named Salvatore Rodriguez. And Salvatore is a pianista. He's a pianist, and he has a career that spans 38 years. And one of his claims to fame is that he is a Liberace impersonator. Now, Salvatore performs at Incanto, at the piano bar there. He plays for the breakfast and lunch crowd. But this week, if you happen to be in town, Salvatore will be playing at Incanto on August the 31st. And here is Salvatore explaining how he earned his stage name.
When I started playing, and Liberace died in 1987. I don't know.
Wow, really? Okay.
7 or 8 is the principal years for my career, and never see Liberace, never hear, never see. Until one American say me, Salvatore, you and Liberace is very scenes, and I'm saying, what? Who's Liberace? And this moment I see the movies, interviews, and many things to Liberace, and I'm like it. Other similitude and same to Liberace and me, the candelabra.
Uh-huh.
When I play for first time, I have one candelabra because my mind like it and say, you need something to light.
Yeah.
It's very, very dark here when you play. And I say, okay, maybe one candelabra is good. Good idea. And the other thing to similitude is Salvatore Liberace.
Yeah. We got the same amount of syllables.
It's very same.
Yeah.
And I don't know what happened, but anyway, Salvatore Liberace is a result to the show. My name originally is Salvador.
So you changed your name to tribute.
I am trying to explain to you.
Okay.
My real name is José Salvador Rodriguez Aldrete de Tepic, Nayarit. And when my first presentation, the master of ceremonies say me, no. Your name is very long. No, it's good for the show. Then now, in the future, I am told to you in 1978, for the future now, your name is Salvatore. And I say, okay.
Wow.
I was very young for to say no.
Well, what are you going to say, right?
And yes, one of my first concert, the man say, I wait for introducing me with my name. And I say, and now with you, the pianist Salvatore. And I always say, who's Salvatore? And it's me. And the people are behind to me, hey, it's your turn, you're next.
It's like, oh,
anyway,
he said me.
It's
okay.
a very funny story.
It's a great story. All right. Well, I like Salvatore a lot. And when I get back to Vallarta in a few weeks, I'm going to do an entire segment on this wonderful man. So stay tuned. Now, back to the interview with Gary Beck and all about the entertainment scene in Puerto Vallarta, Mexico. Gary, thanks so much for joining me here today.
I'm glad to be here. It's a fun time.
Well, you're my only person in my podcast that's come on twice. So that's pretty cool.
Ooh, world's record.
I know. Well, you know what? When we first were talking about food,
yes.
And by the way, if you want to hear Gary's first episode, I think it was episode 4 or episode 5, and it was we were talking about his guide, his restaurant guide. So at that time, I wanted to talk a little bit with him about entertainment. I just ran out of time, so I'm back right now, and we're talking entertainment today, Gary.
Yeah, we need a full time to talk about entertainment in this town.
Yeah, no doubt about
Just
it. Right?
like restaurants, you need a full time.
Yeah. Well, okay, let's talk about that. So the venues. Tell us about what kind of venues are here in Puerto Vallarta to see entertainment.
Well, we just finished the best season ever in Puerto Vallarta, 2016 to 2017. And the main venues to go to are Act 2 over on Basilio Badillo. It's actually a double venue. One side is a stage, and it's a theater with theater seating. And then the other side is a cabaret, intimate, but seats about 90 people. It's called the Red Room. And then they also have a lovely bar in the center.
Mm-hmm. That's split into two.
Yes.
Now, could they actually do two things at once over there?
Yes, and they certainly do.
Okay.
Yeah,
cool.
I think sometimes Danny Mininni has done 1, 2, 3, 4 shows at least in one night. Maybe 5.
Okay.
Sometimes.
Neat. All right.
Keeps him busy.
So that's Act 2.
That's Act 2,
Okay.
and that's called The Stages and the Red Room. And it's delightful. It was just built about 4 years ago, so it's all brand new. It's on the second floor and usually packed. I would buy tickets in advance for the shows there. And then there's the Palm Cabaret over on Olas Altas, and that's the oldest venue that we have. It's grown through many changes, all for the better. And through the years I think it's been about 17 years now, and it's a delightful cabaret with its own style and large seating area with tables and chairs. Very delightful.
So the seating area, the tables and chairs, it's kind of like a nightclub kind of a feel.
Yeah, more of a nightclub.
Okay.
Yes.
And now going back to Act 2, what kind of seating is there?
Well, the stages is a theater, so it's the vertical going up step by step, and way in the back is much more distant than down front.
Okay.
And all with railings and all rows of seats. And that's a theater, and it has a large stage, so that's where they put on plays, and anyone that is a group that has maybe 4 people. You need a space for the drums and the guitar players and the singers and the dancers. So that's really wonderful. Mm-hmm. Then their sister is their Red Room Cabaret, and that has a a cabaret feeling, but then it's also leveled with railings and
It's tiered.
it's tiered, and it has a second floor too that looks down on the first floor.
Okay. And now that's tables and chairs. That's cabaret style still, or no?
Not as much though.
Oh,
In the
okay.
front part it is, but then the second part is more rows of chairs looking down onto the stage.
Okay. All right. Cool. All right. I didn't mean to get you on another track there, sidetrack you, I guess is what I was trying to say. All
And
right. So
then don't forget Incanto. That's our
Let's
new
talk about
one.
that, yeah.
Yes, that's our brand new one. Tracy Parks worked many years at the Palm as the entertainment director, and he decided to form his own venue, and through many months of hard labor took over an abandoned building right on the Rio Quale.
yeah. What was that? What was that building? Do you remember?
It was called Bianco's, was the restaurant that was
okay.
famous there, but it had changed hands many times and sat vacant for probably close to 10 years,
Yes.
just rotting away. And unfortunately, when Tracy went in, he had to just gut the place. The bathrooms, the pipes, all of it was just gone. You know, it was disuse, just. And so it took him a lot longer. He was hoping to open in December, but he did get open the middle of January. And every day's been a growing experience for him because the cushions weren't all in and the lights weren't right and the curtain wasn't right. And every day just got better and better. And they got a second bathroom all fixed up and working. So, and he can stand happy now because it's looking good. But I'm sure he's going to do more things come fall too. And then upstairs from the stage area is the piano bar, and he's really worked on that. He's got a big piano there, chandeliers, big long bar, tables and chairs like cocktails, and then he has a pianist play, or he might have a guitar player and singer. So it's a nice place to go, even if you're not even coming to see a show. And it has an outdoor patio area, or indoors it's air conditioned. So I see that as a big plus for him. Plus, the first floor, he's changed the patio into a waiting area, but also it's a restaurant.
Yeah, I noticed that.
And,
And that's right on the river. So you got a beautiful view right there.
Beautiful, yes. And the food is wonderful.
I'm going to have to check that out.
Yes, I took a group there for Sunday brunch.
Oh, okay. What did you eat?
One of the best French toasts I've ever had.
Ah, cool.
Was a huge, thick piece of bread that had been soaked in milk and cinnamon and vanilla, and then was grilled and served with powdered sugar on top. It was just wonderful.
Oh, yeah. Well, that sounds great. Okay, so yeah, I'm going to definitely check that out. So Incanto.
And then there's the Boutique Theater. That's on the second floor above Nacho Daddy's. That's gone through several years of renovation and adding. As the money comes in, you add more. And it's a big stage with cocktail seating. And it's good for plays or for small groups of musicians, either like downstairs, Sean Moore, the owner of Nacho Daddy's, has entertainment up there when they're not having shows themselves. And they also have soloists. It's a nice place to go.
Cool. Nice.
And then downtown is a place called the Jazz Foundation. And that's on the second floor, down there right off the Malecon. And
that's on the corner of Allende and the Malecon, basically.
Good for you. Good for you.
Just so, yeah, I just happened to know that today. That's all. I can just tell you that.
And they serve food up there, too. And it's very large, a big stage. And good speakers.
Nice.
And with a heavy leaning toward jazz music.
Therefore,
Which
Jazz
is,
Foundation.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which is a lot of fun. But it's not all jazz, but it's because I went and saw some flamenco dancing that was just terrific. So if you've got the stage, you can book whatever you can. Mm-hmm. And there's not 365 nights of jazz musicians floating around town, so you expand.
Yeah, and you obviously you get yourself a good variety that way.
Yes,
Neat. All right, so Jazz Foundation. Any others that you can think of? Any other stages or?
Well, there's Teatro
venues?
Vallarta downtown. It's a big, huge theater. It's beautiful. I think it seats around 800 people. But they don't seem to be doing that much as far as entertainment.
They just don't have the planning going on there that we have here.
The management, I think. They have a tequila tour of some sort on the first floor.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah, I'd like to see that take off.
All right, so now we've talked about the places, so let's talk a little bit about the entertainers. So you just got done saying that this was the best year in 10 years in Puerto Vallarta. And so what kind of entertainment works their way into these venues?
Well, it was the biggest season in the history of Puerto Vallarta. This community down here in Emiliano Zapata, which is also called Zona Romantica, has now become the theater community for Puerto Vallarta. You can walk to all these places I just named. Jazz Foundation's a little bit farther. That's downtown Centro. So we've had all kinds of local entertainment and people that live here or they live in the area. Mm-hmm. Some live in Buceria, some live in La Cruz and Guanacatle. But then we also have a lot of people that come down here from the United States or Canada or from Europe. And they come down sometimes for the first time this year, and sometimes for the second, and some have been coming here for years. They just love it. It's just
so they basically plan their vacation and work it into work maybe, huh?
And some of them come down for 3 or 4 months.
Oh,
wow. Really make a go of it.
Interesting.
Yeah, they consider this their second home. They love it.
Well, why not? I mean,
and people like Paul Fracassi, he comes down. He does a lot of touring in the United States. And we have Kim Kuzma, who plays up in Maine. And we have Bohemia Viva, that plays in New Mexico. We have Amy Armstrong. She's big in Chicago. And cruise ships. A lot of people do cruise ships, too.
Yeah.
They find they can have a pretty good income from that. It's I think it's 2 shows a day, but it includes your sleeping and your food.
Sure.
And they make a lot of friends and followers through those cruise ships, who then turn and come down and say, "Oh, we saw you on such and such cruise to someplace, and we came here because we saw that you were going to be in Puerto Vallarta."
Oh, see how handy is that?
Yes, it's all. And social media plays a big role in it.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Facebook is tremendous for spreading the word about who's in town and when their shows are. Used to be when you'd come down here and we had such few choices of anything to see, mainly you'd have to go to a bar to hear anybody, and they wouldn't be people coming from out of town to play for a long time, but you'd hear about a singer or a group, and you'd read it and find out it was 2 nights before the day you're reading it. There was just no advance notice, and you'd be oh boy, I would have loved to have seen that show.
Yeah. Well.
So it's all different now. Plus the newspapers, we have 2, the PV Mirror and the Vallarta Tribune. Both of them have center pages of ads and descriptions of all kinds of acts. Just go through them, and they're sure you're guaranteed that one of them is going to stand out and say, "Hey, I want to see that."
Yeah. Well, let's talk about standing out. Now, you do reviews on these.
Yes, I do.
On the plays and on the acts and everything that comes through here.
Yes.
And I love the way you write. I just think
Thank you.
It's quite a skill set what you have going on over there, Gary. That's all I can tell you.
Thank you.
All right, so the acts that you saw this year, tell us a little bit about that. What happened this year?
Well, we had, I could start with the tribute people. We had Mickey Prost, who did Patsy Cline. She's done that for many years, probably going on 8 or 10 years now. But she's added Connie Francis, and she does a night of tribute to Connie Francis. She's not pretending to be Connie Francis. She's actually giving you a biography of the artist from childhood to the ups and downs and the horrible marriages, and you learn an awful lot. And then she just added this year Brenda Lee, so she had 3 different shows running from November to April. So it's one of those where you walk out of the theater and go, boy, I had no idea about that artist.
Yeah,
I learned an awful lot.
Oh, that sounds like fun.
Yeah,
I mean, that really, it's a storytelling, and
she does research, and she buys books. And
that's neat.
She went to Grand Ole Opry, and she sang where Patsy Cline stood and sang. She just loved it.
Who was that?
Mickey Prost.
Oh, Mickey Prost.
Mickey Prost,
okay.
Yeah. And then we have Rob Knight, who does Elvis Presley. Mm-hmm. He's from Canada, and he's traveled across Canada for years in the circuit of Elvis contests, and he's won a couple of the top awards. And we're fortunate to have him living down here with his wife, and he gives a couple shows a week doing Elvis, and he really can do a great job.
All right. Well, we all need an Elvis impersonator if you're going to be doing,
we need Elvis, don't we?
Yes, we do, because he's still here.
A different type of tribute is Paul Fracassi. Now, he did his Walk Like a Man, which is the Frankie Valli and the Four Seasons tribute. That was direct, and he's a terrific Frankie Valli. You just wouldn't believe the way he moves and the way he sings and the falsettos. Mm-hmm. But he's also added a couple groups of one called Legends of the 50s and 60s. So you have a whole array of people that were very popular crooners in the 50s and 60s. So it's a tribute, but it's a group. He's not impersonating. He's in exploring the beautiful music that we don't want to ever go away.
Right.
And then we're also fortunate to have people that write, like Brittany Kingery and Stoley, and they write music. And so you can sit there and you hear maybe 1 or 2 songs that you know, unless you have their CDs, because they're all self-composed and just beautiful songs. Mm-hmm. Some dealing with living in Puerto Vallarta.
Who is this now?
Brittany Kingery, and she lives up in Bucerias.
Okay.
And Stoley, who's from Chicago, but has fallen in love with this place, and she spends as much time as she possibly can.
Yeah, why not?
Yes.
So who else is on your list over there?
Well, Kim Kuzma, she's a great singer that's been coming here for well over 10 years, and her band that she formed a couple years ago is called Piel Canela, Cinnamon Skin, and they're a Latin group, and I think they're the hottest band in town. You can just tell when she's singing in front of them. And she's this blonde gringa, and there are these dark Latinos that they're just bouncing back and forth between each other, and you can just tell they're having so much fun, and they groove together, and they work together, they've rehearsed together. It's a slick show. It's just really fun.
So are these musicians, they're mostly guitarists
and drummers,
percussionists,
percussionists, more than a drummer, because some of them bring on like 10 different forms of percussion and sit back there, and it's just amazing what they can do.
You know, these guys, these people are really hard to walk around with because they touch everything,
Yes.
They walk around with a stick and let's see what this sounds like. Bing! Oh, I gotta get this. Yeah.
And then I've learned the last couple of years about the cajon, and that's the box that they sit. And they pound on it in the front between their legs there, and they pound on that, and that's called a cajon. And that's very popular. It's easier to haul around than a set of drums.
I believe that. All right, Google it, you guys. Cajon.
Yes.
All right.
And Alex Gonzalez, who's in a Gypsy Rumba, he's one of the best percussionists around. That's for sure.
So he hits that box pretty hard then. Is what you're trying to say? Okay.
And
right, cool.
the chimes and the cymbals and the tambourine and you name it.
Wow.
And then we also have people that have become attached to the flamenco guitar and gypsy music. And one man in particular lived in the caves of in Spain where the gypsies lived. He wanted to follow them around and learn how to play the flamenco the way they played it, the way it was originally done, and sit around the campfires until morning drinking away whatever they drink in Spain.
That's got to be sangria or something, right?
I don't know what they drink.
I don't either.
I don't think they drink tequila. It might have been beer.
There you go.
But he learned.
So he went right. He went right to the source, didn't
he? And he followed them and went all around and played with them. And
so he was a guitarist and singer?
He was a blonde gypsy.
Oh, wow. So he's a guitarist and a singer?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Lacho and Andrea.
Lacho and Andrea.
His partner is Andrea. And they used to perform in circuses in Europe.
Oh, really?
He was a flame swallower, is that what it's called?
Yeah.
And she had the boa wrapped around her neck, a real boa.
Oh,
yes,
not a feathered one.
No.
A slithery one.
A big one, too.
Oh, boy.
And they showed video of it, ancient video.
Yeah.
But it was fun to see him young and slender.
So the two of them, they're doing the flamenco music.
Yes, boy, and they play that guitars. Oh, my goodness, they're
Neat.
good.
Oh, that sounds great. Now, where do they play?
They play, let's see now.
I know this is a trick question. You have to reach way back.
Well, they play at the Palm.
Okay.
They play at the Palm a lot.
All right. Now, we talked about the Palm.
And the Gypsy Rumba plays at the Palm, too.
Okay.
Now, there's another group that does Gypsy Flamenco, and their name is Duende, and that's a spirit that comes from within your soul and out of your body, and with smoke all around, and their music is just fantastic.
Duende.
Duende, Duende.
Okay.
They're wonderful.
Yeah.
And Bohemia Viva is our Argentine sweethearts. They came from Argentina and meandered through Mexico and ended up in Puerto Vallarta, and they've hit it big here. They've been honored by the Mexican Cultural Center in New Mexico, Albuquerque, New Mexico.
Yeah.
To 2 years in a row now, they'll be performing up there, singing their music.
Okay. And again, that's
Bohemia Viva.
Bohemia Viva. Okay.
Yes. And we have Amy Armstrong. She's become the entertainment director of the Palm, and she's been playing here for years too. And she's done a lot of cruise ships, a lot of clubs, work in Chicago, and she's a tremendous singer. And she's also a funny woman. She's a comedian, and people just meet her and just love her right off the bat. She's doing a very good job at the Palm, and her aim was to enrich the community of Puerto Vallarta and bring in different kinds of entertainment, like comedy that we don't see as much of. And she brought in some mental illusionists, a type of magical show. Mm-hmm. She brought in the Step Hounds, who she knew from her United States times, her experiences up there, and they did tap dancing on this big wooden box frame on the stage, playing guitar and keyboard and singing and tapping. So it's wonderful to have this. And the Act Two brought in a country singer, and we don't get much in the way of country, but boy, the crowd was there. So there's a want for that type of music. And it was Ty Herden. He was just wonderful. Just gave a great show. Hope he comes back. And then we have other Latin local men and women. We have Elvis Martinez and Jorge Acosta. They mainly sing in Spanish, mm-hmm. But both mix in a little bit of English. We have a group of brothers called Los Bambinos, mm-hmm. Who I knew from when they were just kids walking down the street, the four of them singing at cafes and asking for pesos. Mm-hmm. And they've worked themselves up now, and they own their own restaurant and put on shows a couple times a week. They used to sing all the traditional Spanish songs, but they have edged more into pop, mm-hmm. Anglo kind of music, British and American. They do a song of a show of the Beatles. Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of a far reach from going from Mexican music to the Beatles.
Yes, they've obviously had some direction and thought maybe they'd have more of an appeal. But okay. Sometimes it's not as good to leave behind your wonderful background. What got you there?
Yeah.
What got you to that place? Don't forget.
Sure. No, exactly right.
And we do have plays, too. I mentioned the Boutique Theater having plays, and Act Two at that big stages has plays. They had a huge success with Avenue Q. That was a Broadway show. Mm-hmm. And it was breaking box office records until they released Casa Valentina, and that started breaking records, too. Practically all selling out. Oh. Really good shows, and that stage can take a show with sets and lights and lots of people, 8, 10, 12 people on stage at one time. Mm. The little cabarets can't handle that as well, you know.
Right.
And then we've had a bunch of the female impersonators and drag queens, too, mm-hmm. Which appeal to all kinds of people.
Sure.
It's amazing. It's not definitely just a gay approach.
Right.
A lot of heterosexual couples go to them and really are amazed. Some of the illusionists are terrific, where they can do Cher and Diana Ross and Tina Turner and.
Oh yeah. Well, there's some great talent. There's some great talent in those shows.
We had a fun one called Dueling Drag Divas. It was Chicharrones and Joanna.
I love that name.
And they'd come out and they'd do, let's say, Judy Garland. Well, one would do Judy Garland, and then the audience would applaud, mm-hmm. and then the other one would do a Judy Garland, but it'd be a different song and a different age bracket, you know. Mm-hmm. And then they had judges, and I was a guest judge at one show with Levi Kreis when he was in town. Playing at Act Two, uh-huh. And so they go through, I think, 6 or 7 different artists, And then the judges at the end decide which one got the most applause, because we'd have to write down each one and total up points. And so one would be awarded the diva, and she got the crown and the flowers. But then the next week would be another Dueling Drag Divas, and I think they did 15 shows.
Oh, wow.
So the 15th, wouldn't you know, 14, they were tied 7-7 each. I smell a rat.
I do too.
And the 15th was the finale, and one succeeded.
I was going to say, was it a tie?
Yeah, they did that on purpose so they couldn't have a tie.
Okay.
It was a lot of fun.
Oh, that's great. So this is, now where was that? Where was the venue?
That was at the Red Room in the Act 2's Red Room.
Red Room, okay, in Act 2, okay.
And then we mustn't forget Miss Congeniality. And she's a misconception. She had her 5th year here, and what she did this year was so delightful. She took the first 4 years, and each show has a theme, and she runs it all season. And she took the 5th year and made it the best of. So it was with a slide program in the back showing clips of each of her shows. One was a Disney show, one was Goes to the Movies show, and so she did her favorites from all that. And the high point of her shows is that she comes out on stage and starts singing a song as one of the Disney characters, like Snow White, and then pulls off the dress, and underneath it is another dress, and changes the wig maybe, and changes it into another character. And she did this 8 times. She's actually got 8 costumes on, but you can't see any of them. She's got them lapped such that they cover everything. And she tosses it off to the side, and a stagehand runs to pick it up and grab it. And it's just amazing that one person, and keep singing and do this, and and just transform into character after character.
Wow.
It's really a delight.
Oh, that sounds like fun.
Yes, and we have Sutton Lee Seymour. He's become a big smash hit here. He's just so funny. Just can't stop laughing when you see his show. He's so good and a good singer. Both of these are very good singers, too. It's not just that they are up there singing and dancing. They are very good singers.
Nice.
And they can get serious at times and do some knockout songs. And then we have one that's a group of 4 female impersonators called the Kinsey Six, S-I-C-K-S, Kinsey Six.
Yeah, because how do you get 4 out of 6? Okay, I get it now. I know, I understand.
Kinsey Six, and they're sick.
Yes, that's what I'm hearing.
One of them does all the writing. It's just tremendous writing. Just they take these songs, but you think you know the song, and all of a sudden the lyrics start changing over to something that has nothing that you ever heard before. And you just start laughing and laughing because they're humorous and cutting and biting. So you don't go there if you're easily offended.
Okay.
No, you don't do that.
No.
Because they'll pick on anybody they want to, and they do.
Okay. Now, where do they? What's their venue of choice over there?
Yeah, they're at Act 2.
Okay.
And they're serious at times, but they're very comic, and they dance as the 4 or as the 2 or a solo 1, and some leave the stage and come back, and they talk to each other because each one has a name, and so the script is so well done. It's just amazing. It's a good show to see.
That sounds great.
They put on a lot of shows.
I got to see that.
Yes. So that's a bit of what we see here. I would say that I was thinking about how many are local and how many are visitors, and I would say maybe the entertainment for the whole season in the high season, which runs from November to April, would be around 20% local, 25% local, and then maybe 75% visitors.
Okay.
And some come down just for a couple shows, some come down for a week, 2 weeks, and then, like I said earlier, some come down for 3 or 4 months.
Okay.
And actually get an apartment and keep it year-round because they've just fallen in love with the place. Yeah.
So it runs through the high season, right? They start in, what, like in December or November?
November 1st is when the Act 2 started. More toward the middle of November for the Palm. So we get a big season.
Yeah, you do. So they go all the way through just the end of April, probably, and then call it quits and go back home or wherever they're going, if they're touring or whatever they're up to, right?
Exactly. It varies by the artist.
Okay.
Yes.
All right, let's talk about something else now. We talked about how you write reviews, right? And you kind of like have a open invitation, don't you? When you for some of these places,
Yes.
Okay. Now you tell me about how you go about writing these reviews. I've read them. They're thoughtful. They're great. And when you're done, ladies and gentlemen, you feel like you've been there. So kudos to you, Gary, for that. How do you approach a review?
Well, the first thing I do is I have a folder on my computer, and they're actually drafts, and I name each one, the artist and the date I'm going to be seeing that artist, and I save that, and then I can go back to it time and time again before I've seen the show and add comments to it. If I find a website for the person, I like putting that on there. I can get information, a background of who I'm going to see, who I'm going to be writing about. Because if you wait until you come home from the show and start doing all that, it's too much.
Yeah.
It's better the more you can do before to make it better, and then you can always edit it, which
so
I do tons
you're laying
of
the
editing.
groundwork. You're laying the groundwork before you go.
Yes.
And thank goodness for Google.
Yes.
Yeah. All right.
And then I take my little notebook and I just write down small things, like I write down a phrase, or I write down a quote from the artist. I write down a word that I want to use. It's something just sticks in my mind. A word pops in there. I write it down. I write down song titles of some songs, not all of them. And any observation I make, I write a little phrase down there for that. And then when I'm home, then I can transfer that all into this folder I made and start working with what I have there and organize it. And I start writing sentences and paragraphs and organizing, this should go up here, this should go there. You want to have a train of thought and make it easily readable by the viewer. Then I do lots of editing many times. I like to just write down the whole article and then close it and go have lunch or go out and do some shopping and come back and open the page again. And when you break away and you come back to it, it gives you a fresh look.
Yeah.
And sometimes you can say, oh, I don't like that word there. So then I get on my thesaurus and I look for another word I can use that really fits what I'm trying to say better than what I wrote down. And I might do that like 6, 7 times and just keep closing it and opening it. And sometimes I'm working on a couple at the same time so I can go back and forth. And then when I'm finally done, I read through it and say, okay, that's done.
Yeah.
I'm satisfied. and then I upload it onto Facebook, my Yahoo groups, Google groups, and I add pictures too. Usually one of the flyer that's advertising the show itself and the artist. Sometimes I get pictures posted to Facebook that someone was in the audience and took a picture, and I use the picture, and I always give credit to the photographer. If I ever use your picture, I want your name listed at the bottom saying photo courtesy of. It's only fair.
Sure.
And so I like to include some of those if I have them. Sometimes there's nothing available.
It's a good opportunity to get some good shots, too.
Yes. And I don't sit and take pictures. I'm way too busy writing little notes and listening to the music and watching, because that's where my attention should be, not to be looking at the camera and figuring out different pictures.
Yeah.
But I know several photographers in town that go to the shows, and I have an agreement with them that I can use their pictures as long as I credit them.
Yeah.
So that works out really well.
That's a great idea.
Nicely. And then I upload, and I'm done, and I go on to the next one.
Wow. Yeah. That's you give so much thought into each one of those, and I'm sure that the entertainers really appreciate that when they can look back and say, hey, this guy really, he didn't just, call this one in. He didn't phone it in. He took the time and did a great job on it. And,
yes.
Kudos to you once again. That's great.
I have started another page of comments from artists, which I copy and paste, which are fond remembrances of happiness that they've had when they read my article and say how I just hit the nail on the head there. And it was just, you wrote just beautifully about how hard we work. And that's what I respect the most, is every artist that gets on stage has worked hard to get there. And I'm not going to sit there and complain about them and criticize them. I'm not a critic.
Right.
I'm closer to a reviewer, but I like to say I write articles about the entertainment. I don't ever want to say bad things about someone. It's just not good.
Right.
It's not good for the venue, and it's not good for the artist. And it's not good for the people that are going to see the show. They might disagree with what I say.
Sure. So these acts, they aren't guaranteed to show up again next year, right? I mean, some of them are perennials, right? And then some of them never been here before.
Right.
So you're still in the air. I mean, you really don't know what's going to be coming up next season or who's going to be there, right?
No. There's been a couple announcements of who's coming in the fall, but it's still a little early, and the owners and managers and entertainment directors have got their work cut out. A lot of contracts to work out and dates. Dates are so difficult.
Yeah, and then
it's a job I wouldn't want.
Yeah, and a lot of these people, they're kind of fitting it into their travel time, right?
Yes.
And so that's interesting how that works out.
They probably write and say, "Listen, I'm available this date to this date," and then then you got to get your calendar out and figure out how you're going to get them in.
Yeah. Oh wow. All right. So then, once again, the season is going to start up again in November.
Yeah.
Now, where would people go to see what's coming up? Is there? I know that there's some Facebook pages out there and stuff like that. Is that the best way to do it?
Well, I run a Facebook page on live entertainment, cabarets, and theater, which is called More of Beck's Best.
Okay, so I'll have a link to that on my website.
Oh, okay.
All right, and those of you who are listening to it, and you're planning your trip to Puerto Vallarta, and you want to know what kind of entertainment is going to be there when you are there, well, this would be a great place to start, right, Gary?
Yes, and it's not just my page. It's that I manage it. It's many artists belong to it, and the venues all belong to it. And so they post whatever they're doing tonight, tomorrow, the next day, next week. and the artists put on their own little blurbs about thanks for coming to the show, and my next show is on this date, and it's really a good way to get it all. It's not just me I put my reviews on there, but it's much bigger than that. And
it's a collection of what's going on.
Yes, it really helps the people that come. And some people are now starting, which I've only heard in the last couple of years, they're starting to plan their vacation to Vallarta according to who's going to be in town performing.
Yeah.
They might have a favorite, and they're going, oh, I really want to see so-and-so, like Levi Christ. He's only here for 2 weeks, and I want to go there, so I'm going to make my plans. And they buy their tickets, and they're there.
And they're there.
Yes.
Wow.
And they say, we came from Chicago just to see you. And, of course, the artist just thinks that's great. Because most of them come here and they don't make the money that they make up in the States or in Canada or and throughout Europe.
Well, yeah, because most of these venues, what are they charging? Like $20? The $20 US?
Well, by pesos, I think it's around 300 pesos to up to 500 pesos.
All right, so from $15 to $25, you can see yourself some top-notch performances right here in Puerto Vallarta.
Yes, and I talk to my friends that come from Montreal or Toronto or New York or Chicago and San Francisco. The prices they pay are just, what 3, 4, 5 times as much money?
Oh, yeah. I just paid $240 for Hamilton.
Ooh.
Right? I mean, okay, now 25, 240. Do the math, boys and girls.
Yes.
Right? Okay, it's not Hamilton.
And plus
but okay,
you can be here where it's so gorgeous, too. That draws a lot of the artists here because they make it more of a working vacation.
Yeah. And now
they're working, but they're on vacation. They're having a good time. They're still serious, but they know they're not going to make $10,000.
Right.
But they're here because they love it.
Sure, they're coming here. They're paying their expenses. They're getting some pocket change. They're having a little fun, and they're getting a little exposure. I mean, that's a lot of entertainers. That's what they need.
Yes,
especially if they're not, the number one. If they're second bill on some of these places up in the States, they still can come down here and headline, right? I mean,
they do get some fringe benefits because I think some of them get some lodging, and a hotel might want to sponsor them and have them stay for a week, and they post how wonderful it is. So it's a tit for tat.
Sure.
You pat my back.
Yeah.
And then some people have their friends take them out for dinner or for lunches, the people that, we just loved your show, let's go have lunch. And so they get some benefits that way, too, which is fun.
Sure.
But they also just love the people. I hear that so much of the time. They love the Mexican people that live here, and they love all the people that come to the shows, and the responses that they get are just overwhelming. I can't even tell you how many times this season I've heard an artist say from the stage, "You've been one of the best audiences I've ever had." And I don't think it's words. I think they mean it.
Yeah.
I really do.
Yeah.
Because they just get great responses.
Well, they get a grateful crowd over here, which is important.
It's a scenic place to be, and the restaurants are wonderful, and you've got the beach right here. You can drive to different areas and learn the history of the country. There's a lot going on for it.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Well,
That's why we're here.
Yeah. Well, wow. This has been eye-opening for me, and I'm sure that my listeners got a lot out of this conversation, talking about entertainment.
I hope they just really want to go see a show. Yeah. Go see a show.
And, most of them are air-conditioned, right, Gary? So if it's a little bit hot, this is a good way to get some entertainment, cool down a little bit, and they serve food at most of these places.
And most of them have air conditioning all season long, even in the winter. Mm-hmm. The stage gets pretty hot.
Yeah.
You hear the artists complaining, boy, it's hot up here, because they've got lights all on them, and it's kind of closed in there. So they need air. And sometimes it might be a little too cool for you, so then you just move to a different part of the theater that is away from the air conditioner unit.
Mm-hmm. All right, so it might be a good idea to bring a wrap with you.
Yeah, you might
like
want to. It
be,
depends.
Yeah.
For me, it doesn't bother me. I prefer the cool air, but other people have said, "Oh, it's a little chilly in here."
Yeah, well, you got to keep the actors cool enough underneath those hot lights. They need it. They need it too.
Yeah, and those waiters running around with all those drinks on their trays, they burn up energy too.
Yeah.
They got to cool down.
Wow. Well, this has been a great conversation about entertainment, Gary Beck. I thank you so much for helping me out and helping out my listeners and giving us guidance,
That's the main thing. I want the listeners to learn from this experience and come see. Plan your trip.
Excellent. All right, so I'm going to have links to all of these venues on my website. They'll be in the show notes for this episode of the Puerto Vallarta Travel Show. You'll be able to find them there at PuertoVallartaTravelShow.com. And Gary Beck, thanks very much.
Thank you. It was wonderful.
All right. Well, that was pretty in-depth, wasn't it, about the entertainment scene here in Puerto Vallarta. Go to my show notes and check out all the pictures and check out the links that'll take you to these different venues. I have YouTube videos of some of these performers, so definitely check it out. Okay, that should do it for this week's episode of the Puerto Vallarta Travel Show. Next week, stay tuned for more on-the-ground reports from Puerto Vallarta with travel tips, great restaurant and excursion ideas, and more. So until then, remember that this is an interactive show where I depend on your questions and suggestions about all things Puerto Vallarta. If you think of something that I should be talking about, please reach out to me by clicking on the Contact Us tab and sending us your message. And remember, if you're considering booking any type of tour while you're in Puerto Vallarta, you must go to vallartainfo.com, that's JR's website, and reserve your tour through him right from his website. Remember, this is a value-for-value proposition, my friends. His experience and his on-the-ground knowledge of everything Puerto Vallarta in exchange for your making a purchase of a tour that you would do anyway. You're just doing it through him as a way of saying thank you. It costs no more than if you were going to be using someone else to do it, so really just do it. And when you do take one of those tours, email me about your experiences. Maybe you can come on board and share with others what you liked or didn't like about the tour. Again, contact me by clicking on the Contact Us tab and sending off a message. And once again, if you like this podcast, please take the time and subscribe and give me a good review on iTunes if you would, like Leaning Oak did. That way we can get the word out to more and more people about the magic of this place, Puerto Vallarta, Mexico. So also remember, I made it easy for you to do just that with each episode I create. But if you haven't been to my website, you really need to have a look there. I have the links to all the places that we talk about. I have interesting pictures and even more, all right there in my blog posts and in my show notes for each episode of the show. So check them out for sure if you haven't already done that, all right? All right. Thank you to Gary Beck and Danny Mininni and Salvatore Rodriguez. I have all their contact information in the show notes of this episode at thePuertoVallartaTravelShow.com. And thanks to all of you for listening all the way through this episode of the Puerto Vallarta Travel Show. This is Barry Kessler signing off with a wish for all of you to slow down, be kind, and live the Vallarta lifestyle. Nos vemos, amigos.
De Puerto Vallarta, noche de arrullo en el mar. Samba de Puerto Vallarta, noche de amor junto al mar. camino eterno por la playa, me encuentro junto al río cuando todo está en calma. Pronto cae la noche, me brillas Puerto Vallarta, samba de Puerto